Well, Stu, the All Blacks did a lot of work in the week between the first and the second test, going by the way they played.
Yeah, well, Tom, nothing's really changed with any All Black side. They do. They're very aware of the win-loss ratio that the All Black history has shown. So they always go out and try and win the contest. They won the contest at Eden Park the week prior, but were a little bit rusty. And so they had 7 days to sort of get their act together down in Christchurch too, and they're always seeking to and looking to improve their performance from the previous week, which, you don't have to be a real rocket scientist to work at it. They played a very clinical game. They were very accurate in what they did. Their tactics were quite simple. Just make sure they get in the best part of the field to have a crack, and then they fed on mistakes off the Frenchmen. And probably one of the better displays of rugby, particularly in the All Black jersey, that I've seen for a number of years.
I was stunned when I saw the statistics. 40% possession, 40% territory indicates with when they did get the ball, they did it well.
Well, they did, and really 10-0 at half time. It's not a great score. And then they rocked out in that second half, and then they got belted on their own goal line. Around that 50th minute, I think the French had a crack. There was something like 20, 25, 26 phases, which the All Black defence repelled, and they did it with physicality, which was lacking at Eden Park. It forced Michalak to have a crack at a drop goal, charged down by, I think it was Sam Cane. Then Dane Coles, Aaron Cruden got involved, Julian Severe got involved, and then, Severe unloaded to Ben Smith, and then suddenly the French, after 5 minutes of incredible pressure on the All Black goal line, got nothing, not even a trick, found themselves walking back to their own goal line, standing behind their own sticks. And that was the turning moment of the game, because that basically was a big kick in the bum. They said, crikey dicks, we've been here all day on the goal line, couldn't get a trick, and now we're walking behind the goalpost and we're seeing a 5-pointer, 7-pointer happen. So that took the French out of the equation.
I've seen worse French teams than this too, Stu. They're not a bad unit.
Well, they're a good unit, Tom, because, the coach for the French team, he put in 2 new boys last week in Eden Park. 2 new guys had their debut in the blue jersey. And on Saturday night in Christchurch, the number 7, Bernard Larue, played his first test too. So France are experimenting with young guys, trying to get a combination ready for the next World Cup. We went out there with, we had a late change with Sam Whitelock coming on board. And, in that last 5 or 10 minutes, we can throw guys like Baden Barrett out there and say, well, we have got some young guys to take over some of the older positions. So the French are a good side, but I think that one there basically took the steam out of them. And the All Black team this week, we're thinking, right, we've got the foot on the throat. If we go to New Plymouth and find out that we drop our standards, which is one of the key things they don't want to do, they could put this team away by a big score if their attitude and their ruthlessness and their physicality remains for this week for the last test in New Plymouth this Saturday.
If I had multi-millions of dollars, I'd shout Rennie Ranger out of his contract, because something happens every time he's on the park, doesn't he? He's great for rugby, he's great for entertainment.
Well, Rennie's always been Rennie Ranger. He when he was playing for the Blues, when he plays for the Northland team, sometimes when he plays for the All Blacks, he will always make 1 or 2 mistakes. However, what he does give you, he gives you 4 moments or 4 magical moments of brilliance, which you can't coach. He's certainly got the X factor. And with players like that, unfortunately we can't come up with about $600,000 to keep him here in New Zealand. He's off to France, which is quite sad, but that's the way it is.
I have to mention, I think the player of the day for me, though, was Sam Whitelock coming off out of injury. I'm sure that hand is still sore. I think he had the second highest tackle count. He's a huge influence in that team.
Yeah, well, of course, we nicked 6 of their throws from the line-out, so France were quite good at line-out time at Eden Park, but they were a little bit messy down in Christchurch in Sam Whitelock's presence. And, he's basically gone, in my mind, Tom, he's gone from a very, very good All Black to actually, he could be, way up there with some of the greats. I mean, his physicality on Saturday night for a guy that had been off the track for a couple of weeks with a broken finger, and apparently it was quite a serious break, to come in like that and to be as physical as he was, with a couple of weeks layoff, just shows you that he's got a big kicker, he's got a big engine. And, when you look through our locks, we have got a fairly good reservoir of guys that can actually go in. You've got a couple of guys from Christchurch, you've got Sam, you've got Retallick up here in the North Island, and they're all young guys. They're not, they're 25, 26, some of them are only in their early 20s, so they're going to be around a long time. But Whitelock, absolutely outstanding on Saturday night.
And what's your assessment of the Cruden-Smith combination? I know at the moment going forward they look good. Are they defensively good enough for a team like South Africa or Australia?
I think they are because, the French probably would have looked at them. I was very impressed with Aaron Smith in his last two tests. They took a lot of the heat off Aaron Cruden with the kicking game on Saturday night. It was wet and slippery. So suddenly, Aaron Smith did a lot more kicking. Israel Dagg came in at first receiver to get that big right foot of his going, so he took a lot of heat off of Aaron Cruden. And also Ma'anonu took some heat off the kicking game. That deft left foot grubber kick to set up the first try. Some of his kicking into grassland, which is what we wanted. Instead of kicking into the French hands, we kicked it into grass areas where we had this monster big kick chase. So when they got the ball back, they looked up, there was just a line of black jerseys, and they thought, oh my God. So they kicked it back to us, which is what we wanted. And then we launched a couple of counterattacks. So we played very clever on Saturday night, but we took the kicking game away from Aaron Cruden because, Dan Carter, you don't need anyone else in the team when you've got Dan Carter doing the kicking.
And you'd have been pleased with the return to form of Israel Dagg. Some of the super coaches around might be a bit frustrated that they're playing so well, but it's well timed.
Well, I had a big question mark on him after the Auckland test. But then, Steve Hansen, the coach, came back and said, well, he did his core duties well. His skill was good under the high ball. His defence was okay. He made a couple of errors at Eden Park, but didn't have that magic sparkle that he can create. Well, it definitely came back in Christchurch. So he was back and just reaffirmed that, look, sometimes when I play for the Crusaders, I'm not quite there, but you put me in a black jersey with the best players in the country and a good coaching squad, then I would deliver, as did Ma'anonu, as did Aaron Smith. These guys were struggling for form in the Highlanders, but suddenly you put them in a black jersey, and hello, they are back.
And finally, with the view to the championship coming up, do you play the same combination again next week, or would you like to see some experimentation in the third test?
Well, I think that Piri Rupu and Tony Woodcock deserve to go back and start because I think Piri Rupu probably would have started at Eden Park because he was clearly the best halfback they had. He got knocked over and got knocked out, so he's had to take a couple of weeks stand down. I'd expect some changes. With some new guys. I'd give Ben Afiaki a run. I'd look at Ben Afiaki starting in the tight end position. Daniel Carter will come back, so he goes to 10. So if you've got Carter, you may as well start Piri Rupu. I'd look at Stephen Luatua as the blindside flanker, give him a run. And I'd also look at Baden Barrett running in the number 15 jersey. Now, there's some big changes, but we've got to start. Because we've wrapped up the Dave Gallagher Shield and the trophy, and we've won the series, we can't afford to experiment with some guys to see just how good they are. But the first and foremost in the minds of Hansen and co is that we must win the contest. We've got to win it because, we like big W's beside our match name instead of L for loss. So we've got to win the third test, but you can experiment and you could have 5 to 6 changes in the starting 15, and I don't think the All Black team would lose a stutter.